I've been requested to do a review around this car. I did it on Instagram and a couple of people asked a few questions about it. So this is a 2016 Polo GTI 1.8 turbo, 189 brake standard, 7-speed DSG and 250 foot-pounds of torque. So far all it's had done is half an exhaust, which is just a Cobra Catback exhaust. Low line kit from Maxton Design, which is just a splitter bolted on underneath the rear bumper. Blacked out badges. Maxton lip just up top here. Tinted rear reflectors. It's currently on IBAC Pro Street Kit springs, which drop about, I think, standard 20-30, and then with the 10mm top mounts in the front, that's done an equal 30-30, so it just kind of fills the gap. Because before, about standard, it was sitting up about here maybe, so it just sits it a bit lower and makes the handle a bit better. It's recently, literally today, just had 15mm spacers on the rear put in. 10mm are going to come soon, so it just kind of tucked the wheel flush with the car a bit, because again, standard cars nowadays do have their wheels sitting in a bit. It's had a custom Club Sport stripe that I made just from 2 bits of, well, a reel of 30mm tape off Amazon, and then a custom decal also off eBay. It's had these canals installed from Diversion, about £12 universal things. Some headlight eyelids off Diversion. Black mirror caps with dynamic indicators, so you just get kind of the Audi look when you indicate them up the car. Obviously wind deflectors, the rear one, because I had an old Polo before that was also 5-door, they carried over, but the rear one fell out, so yeah, that kind of fucked that. Again, black badges, and then both the GTI badges at the front and the back. I've got these overlays on from Badge Skins, simple little decal to put on. On the interior, let's turn that off. The interior, pretty standard to be honest. Ignore the bottle of Di Serrano, don't drink and drive. Yeah, on the interior, pretty standard. All that's had done is a steering wheel cover from Fatbits UK, which I'm a rep for, so definitely check them out. Pretty straightforward installation. They've got fitters around the UK if you struggle to do it, so you can message them and they can sort you out. It's had a Badge Skins GTI emblem replacement here, which again is just an overlay that sticks onto the emblem. It's had some extended paddle shifters, just some off eBay, pretty straightforward stuff. Other than that, that's pretty much the interior, apart from these seatbelt cushions as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've done to it so far, about 8 months after it. So yeah, a couple of questions people are asking on this. They're quite sensible questions to have and stuff. Yeah, it's something to definitely consider when buying your own variant of this car. And there are a couple of problems with these that they're known for, which I'll go through and tell you my experience of any. So starting off with the stock spec of the car, just for those who want the details exactly. It's a 1.8 TSI inline 4 with 189 brake standard. It's got 250 newtons of torque, 184 foot-pounds. Apparently it's got a top speed of 148, but then I've seen others that say 130, so it just depends how far you want to put your foot down with it. It weighs 1230 kg, so it's not too heavy I suppose, but obviously with all the stuff in the car and it being a 5-door, it's a bit heavier than the 3-door, and with some weight reduction you can get this down pretty easy and get it as a right pocket rocket, not that it isn't one anyway. And another thing with it, MPG, see, the dealers always say different about these. They reckon about 50, 60 odd, but I've had 50.8 out of it on the first long drive I did with it. My average is probably 27 to 35, depending how well I'm driving. It just depends how far you put your foot down and how careful you drive it. But if you're buying this type of car, you're not going to be driving it like a granny 24/7, so bear that in mind. And to fill it up a tank with Tesco Momentum, it's about 55-60 pound, I think. Again, petrol prices vary, so yeah, comparing this to some other cars, as you can see in the background, I'm with Ryan and his mate who I've just met, who's got a Corsa VXR that he just picked up. So comparing this to the VXR and a couple other cars, so again, obviously this is 1.8 TSI with 189 brake, 250 newton meters of torque, 148 mile per hour top speed. 0 to 60, I've done it in 6.4, but a lot of sources say about 6.6. And the price for mine, I've paid around, well, it's a finance at the minute, so this is 14.5 outright. So the Fiesta ST, which is like the top kind of competitor for this kind of car, there's a lot of, you know, should we say, beef between the Fiesta owners and Polo owners. It's all good fun. I'm not well knowledged on Fiesta STs, so I'm not going to be too bang on about this, but 1.6 litre EcoBoost, 179 brake, to 40 Newton meters of torque, top speed of apparently 139 mile an hour, 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds, a lot lighter, 1088 kg, and apparently the going price for them is about 11.7. Again, that I could be wrong. This is just off some sources I've looked for. And then comparing this to the VXR. The VXR is a 1.6 litre. This is, I think, the newer ones. Yeah, all these cars I'm comparing to actually are 2015 and 16, so the same as this. Corsa is 202 brake, 280 Newton meters, apparently 143 mile an hour, 0 to 16, 6.5. The weight, the wet weight as well, which I should say as well, is 12.93, and the price is 12.5. So yeah, comparing them all around to kind of the same value-ish and the kind of cars you'll see around these, they're not all that different. There's benefits to all of them. I definitely want to say the Corsa isn't a slouch at all. That thing can go. They've just got a couple problems that, you know, people complain about now and then. But again, it depends how you drive it and how well it was looked after before. Okay, so the next one was, what else did I look at when I was looking at getting a replacement car from my previous Polo? So the reason I went for a Polo, the long-winded version, is it had kind of a sentimental meaning to me to get one. Basically, without going too far into it and, you know, longing this out from a car review, I basically promised my granddad I'd get one before he passed away, and I wasn't going to let myself or him down with it, so ended up going for it, and I was obsessed with them for months. Anyone who knows me and seen me on Instagram can vouch for that, so yeah, it's definitely got a bit of meaning to me. But yeah, other than that, I think it was pretty much going to be a Volkswagen anyway, because I've been around bag and Volkswagen cars all my life anyway, so I've had the experience of them and know them quite well and know that they're decent for what you get in. The Golf was definitely the other option, I think. It's the only one that made sense, because the Up GTI is definitely a cool little car that you could get some power out of, but it's not the fastest thing to get out of it, and to be honest, it's not what I wanted, and it wouldn't have matched what I needed it for. So this was practical, affordable. The insurance was decent on it as well, because the Golf was quite a lot more expensive, it being a 2 litre, and a lot more on it as well. So yeah, this was definitely the perfect kind of car to get, and to be fair, considering after 8 months it's still going strong. It's matched everything I need. It's never, touch wood, let me down or anything. So the other thing is servicing. Again, servicing varies on cars. This being the flagship of the Polo, it's going to be a bit more pricey than, say, than R-Line or something, but to be fair, it's all pretty much the same kind of thing. So yeah, with mine from Volkswagen, I bought the service plan, which was a little bit extra on the car, but that basically covers a couple costs, and basically just makes it a bit cheaper when you go into to get it serviced. So problems with these cars, again, these vary from how previous owners or how you boot them and drive them every day. Obviously, if you push a car to its limit too much and for too long, you are gonna, you know, bring some faults up. So the most common thing with the DSG variant is the gearbox itself, and because it's a sealed unit, it doesn't get serviced. So the one thing I recommend doing is always letting it warm up with any car, manual or auto. Just let it warm up nicely, ease it in, don't absolutely frag it straight off. Kind of build your temps up and everything, and then enjoy it as much as you want. So yeah, it's kind of one thing to look out for. And power pushing through the auto, you are limited on it by torque as well, so definitely a manual again for pushing any power out of these cars, if that's what you're going to go for with them. I think it all varies on how you drive it and look after it, and obviously if you service it enough, the gearbox, excluding that because it's sealed, you're not really going to have any issues. You might have to pay a bit more, but the service plan might come into that and knock a bit off. It just depends. It really does just depend. But yeah, that's kind of the problems to look out for with the DSG one. The manual one also has its issues as well. but obviously not being a manual owner, I don't know them off by heart. But I think the clutches on them can go sometimes, but that's kind of expected as well. Clutches do wear out. So yeah, that's kind of just the problems to look out for on the DSG one anyway. So for anyone that's looking to modify these, I've not done anything too crazy with this yet, and it being a DSG and its problems that it has, again, that's kind of putting me back on it a bit. But for mods that I've done, I'm just going to go through what I've done. So I've got a Cobra Catback exhaust, and this does wonders. I'll put some exhaust clips in. It's definitely a must, I'd say, because the one thing this does lack is noise standard, which most cars do nowadays. And one thing I forgot to mention is the sport button inside does actually pump fake noise into the car when you press it, so it's kind of a letdown when you're giving it some and you think you're making noise but you're really not. So that's definitely a must, is putting an exhaust on. Personally, I would go for Cobra. It was a good price and it sounds mega, and again, it adds so much to your drive. The maximum diffuser is quite a, I'd say it's quite a kind of no-brainer on these. They're quite common on them, which I don't blame them for, because just from standard you just have this kind of black bit and it just leaves these kind of mini fins at the edges here. It does look quite boring, quite quiet at the back, so definitely adding that adds a bit of aggression, and you definitely get kind of a cool look from the side of the car as well. When you look down here, it does look really cool as it pokes out a bit, so definitely worth doing. This Maxton lip at the top here is probably worth doing as well. It just kind of adds a bit more aggression at the back, just makes it look a bit taller, and it kind of matches my kind of club sport kind of look that I'm going for with the car as well. I don't know whether it actually does anything performance wise, but it just looks really cool and just makes it sit up a bit nicer. Lowering springs as well is probably a must for me. Again, if you want to modify this car, I'd kind of avoid the sport pack, just because it saves a lot of time and a lot of hassle. But yeah, this is, as I said, is sat on eye back, because it kind of has it sitting a bit lower and looking a bit nicer, and it obviously handles a bit better as well, so definitely worth doing lowering springs as well. Actually, I should say as well, the lowering springs, they're not made for like stupid lows. They're kind of just made to lower it a little bit, but they were more or less designed to kind of keep the ride comfort and just kind of make it look a bit nicer and handle a little bit better, which I must say, from about 2 weeks of having them on, it handles so much better now. Wheel spaces, I've only had them done today, to be honest, so I can't really say too much about them, but they look absolutely brilliant as it kind of sits the wheel nice and flush. But other than that, I've not had anything else done. Engine wise, actually I'll open the bonnet, as most people might want to know what the engine looks like. So yeah, as I said, this is a 1.8 litre. Soon I'm going to have an induction kit ready for stage 1, so all of this down to the turbo will be replaced. Yeah, engine wise, I've had not anything done, so I'm not going to be too familiar yet with any kind of recommendations or things to look out for. But yeah, I mean, the one big thing I'd say that I'd recommend is definitely an exhaust on it. Whether you get resonated or non-resonated, that's up to you. Mine isn't resonated, so at higher RPMs on motorways, it can get drony. But with the 7-speed gearbox, the revs kind of sit nice and low to kind of avoid the drone. But if I'm honest, this is a perfect exhaust. It's never been uncomfortable or too intrusive. It's noisy when I want it to be, which is just when you put your foot down. So yeah, I can't fault this exhaust at all. So yeah, that's, I think, pretty much everything. If there's any more questions or anything, just send me it on Instagram and I'll try and answer it. and I'll probably do like another year review or something, because like I said, I've had this for about 8 months now, and it's been completely spot on, never a problem with it at all really. And I can't recommend them enough. I think they're brilliant little cars. They're really quick, they look really sporty, really aggressive, and from standard I've enjoyed every moment of it. Maybe the manual for more driver focus, because obviously the auto takes a lot of fun out of things, so people say. So that's kind of another thing to note as well, that if you want to kind of go for extra power in a car, I wouldn't recommend the DSG, because they're known to have their problems of being quite weak on torque and braking quite a bit. So I definitely recommend manual if you're going to kind of make this into about 300 brake, because I think you can only get really about stage 2 on this, which is about 260 odd I think, depending where you go. But from where I'm looking, I think stage 1 will be fine, which is an increase from 189 to 250 horsepower and 250 to 320 newton meters of torque. So it's not too bad. It makes it a bit quicker, just adds a bit more. It basically puts it a little bit above a Golf GTI. I think it puts it at a GTI performance level as well, so you'll definitely be murking people. But one thing I would say to do as well with that is probably definitely upgrade your tyres, because standard tyres, they come on, I've got one still, Bridgestone Potenzas. Not a great tyre if I'm honest. The Polo group and every other Polo owner who's had these can also vouch for that. They are not the grippiest, but their tyres, they work. The rest of these are going to get replaced for PS4s at some point in June, so it should have a bit more kind of grip and traction. Because one thing as well I should probably point out actually is, in the wet, this thing is a bit, you've got to ease your power in. And I mean, it's a front wheel drive car, it's not a four wheel drive, so you can't just boot it and let the car kind of do the gripping for you. You've got to ease the power in and actually drive it, I say, with an auto, but you've got to control it better, which is the whole point of the GTI. It's always been a front wheel drive monster, so definitely worth noticing as well. And definitely when you get better tyres on it, it would definitely do a lot. So PS4s or Rain Sport 3s I think. So yeah, that's basically the review of the car after 8 months. No problems with mine. As I said, I've loved every minute of it. It's been brilliant to own. I can't wait to carry on the ownership with it and get a few more mods done to it and go on a few more adventures with it. But yeah, cheers for watching. Hope this has helped some of you out, and just let me know how it goes. Cheers.